to
All right, Ryan.
keep an eye on comments.
All right, folks. Welcome to Beer with Bass Boone here, where tonight's subject matter is going to be about pro staffing. That goes out to all the sticker sniffers, pot lickers, and pole pirates out there in the world. By the time we're done with this tonight, your fishing resume is going to be so tight you can fan cast it out tomorrow, and you'll have them reply emails by 10 a.m. Woo! Discount code. They're pro.
All right. I appreciate that intro, Brian. I think everybody's fired up. Well, everyone, thanks for jumping on here with us. We got Ryan, Shane, and myself as always, and we got AJ Mchworter back with us, and for the first time, Ron Champion in full Christmas gear. Thank you, Ron, for jumping on and getting in the spirit there. I'm going to frame what we're going to talk about real quick, and then we'll get into some of these questions, and this is going to be a fun topic. But first off, I don't think we want to make this the same old pro staff joke bash session. We want to make it something productive if we can. We're not going to get into trying to define the difference between all these different pro staff sponsors and field staffs, maybe just a little bit, and keep it kind of in the kayak bass fishing realm, not the, I know there's a lot of great saltwater anglers and different things out here, but we're going to talk kayak bass fishing and the pro staff that is involved there if we can. As Shane said earlier, the good, the bad, and the ugly, as he put his announcement earlier in the week. So hopefully we can all learn something, have a little fun, and roll with this all night. And we'll get into the comments, and I'm sure there'll be some good stuff exchanged here. So let's jump right in. Thank you guys all for being with us. Go around the horn. Shane, you want to start us off, buddy?
Oh my! What am I starting us off with?
Well, let's just go right from the jump. Pro staff. You're a pro staff director for Wildy, right? For the South region there, or part of the South.
I am.
Let's just go around the horn with maybe some pro staff do's and don'ts that you guys have seen as you're looking for new people.
You're gonna put me on the spot. We could have rehearsed this.
Sorry, man.
I was reading through kind of Chase's post on this, and I can kind of piggyback on a lot of that, but I think for pro staffs, a lot of it is truly believing in the product, having experience with it. You can tell if somebody actually wants to support a company because they've been using the brand or the product and they're pushing it, whether they have any support from the company or not. And then they're able to kind of have a mutually beneficial relationship because of that, versus guys that just kind of tend to chase discounts and they'll send out a mass amount of resumes, and whoever bites, they jump on that, and all of a sudden that's the best product. And I've had guys that approach one brand, and if it's not a good fit, within a week they're making a big Facebook post and announcing how humbled they are to be joining another brand, competing brand. So you can kind of see ahead of time if that's the kind of person it is based on the relationship they have with the brand. That's one thing that I look for.
Ron, you want to chime in there? I know we talked before the camera started rolling about some of the stuff that kind of your perspective on this whole pro staff sponsor situation.
Yeah. I mean, right now, I mean, the market's flooded. We all know it. But the worst part of it is the question comes up. I know it just came up on the page just a couple of days ago. It's like people are just literally trying to get stuff started, wanting their opinions on pro staff, who's getting paid, who ain't getting paid. I mean, like, what does it really matter? That's my whole take on it. Who's getting paid and who ain't. Just know that there's guys that are getting paid, and that's something to work toward. If you're a newcomer coming in, there is a end goal in this. You're not going to, unless you just went out and just absolutely killed it and you have a huge social media following and you're, the top dog in the industry, they're not going to throw, money at you out of the gate. You have to earn that. You've got to build that up. And, it's just, I hate that every time the question comes up, of people talking about the pro staff. I even, like I said, I made the comment. I usually don't comment on it, but there was a post, and I was like, most of the guys that are legitimate sponsored anglers, they just sit back and shake their heads like, here we go again. That gets old. I get tired of seeing that.
And I want to kind of go back to one thing that you said, Ron, that maybe some folks don't realize that a lot of companies now are putting more investment into kayak fishing and kayak anglers, and there are tiers now where it's not the same old minimum discount that you get and you have to whore yourself out and whore the brand out. There's tiers, and it can develop into a paid contract. Sure. Or very often it's a lot of free gear that ends up saving you a ton of money. So,
and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with free gear. There's nothing wrong with that, with a 50% discount. I tell people all the time, because I get asked this question so many times. People message me. We've talked about it at tournaments and events, round tables, at tournaments, be a bunch of anglers sitting around. If you're really looking at trying to, if your goal is to be on pro staffs, if your goal is to get paid, whatever your end goal is, you have to set your worth as an angler. What is your time, and what is that time? How much value does that have to you? With me, and I use myself as an example because that's all I can do. I can't use somebody else. All I can say is what has worked for me. My value, whether it's sitting, like right now, I'm sitting in my office in front of a computer doing this with you guys, but I would still be sitting here if I wasn't doing this, this interview, a round table, whatever it might be. I'd be working on other stuff. I'd be working on whether it be putting some art together for a sponsor, getting a post ready for maybe next week. I put a lot of time in, promoting these brands, not promoting them all at the same time, not making one post on 10 different pages at the same time. It'd be 10 posts. That's one thing I do hate when guys do that.
Huge
spread that out, but that time is valuable to me, because it's time away from my family, from my kids. I could be doing something else. So set your value as an angler, because only you can do that. If you allow the company to set your value for you, you're already putting yourself behind the 8 ball. Go in with a mindset, okay, this is what my time's worth. You can negotiate on that, but you need to have some kind of value set for your time when you go into any kind of negotiations, whether it be pro staff or sponsorship. That's my opinion on it.
And at the same time, you need to be able to present why you have that certain value that you've assessed yourself.
That's right. That's right. Go ahead.
Guys come up and say, I really want to be a part of this company, a part of this brand, I want to represent them. But when you ask kind of how they plan to do that, if they don't have a plan outlined, or if they can't present how they're adding value to the brand, it's probably not going to go their way.
Yeah, and that value can start out with, whether it be you have a large social media presence, or like in the real world of the fishing side, it usually comes from okay, can you catch daggum fish? Or have you done good in tournaments? Everybody might not be a tournament angler. I know a bunch of great fishermen that hold a lot of value for brands that could care less about fishing tournaments. And then they bring in content, they bring in pictures, they bring in video, and that has a huge value, as much as somebody going out and winning a tournament.
My buddy Josh Booth from Missouri, he brought up a good point on that thread the other day. I know there's a lot of trash being talked, but he had a good point that he said it's a kind of a job. It's a job interview. You got to come in there and sell yourself to that company and make sure, like you said, your value is going to do something for them that they didn't have before.
That's right.
I'll give you guys a good example. Gene, Fluke Master, just joined. I fished a tournament with him early this year in freezing cold weather. First time I fished a tournament with him, it was at a local PSKA trail event. And it was a really tough tournament, obviously. I think that was one that the majority of the field skunked, if not everyone. And we were out there for a few hours, and Gene pulled up 2 shad on each treble hook of whatever bait he was choosing. You could feel the shad, flickering through your bait. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get some warmth, and head back to the truck. He just commented and said he's not a tournament guy, but he's an
He
example. Of how
fished
you
our
can have
tournament
success
last weekend,
without.
actually. Gene
On
and
Chick?
Scott both came up on Chick.
Oh yeah.
And I get that Gene's not a tournament guy, but I like seeing that at tournaments, you know. I mean, I like seeing him show up. Like, you're not a tournament guy, but you know, it's cool that you come out and kind of get with the get with the people, you know.
Yeah.
Something we
What are you
talked
doing,
about.
AJ?
Say something we
Man,
talked
I'm
about.
just
a
hanging
little
out, listen to a lot of good convo. I want to add a little bit to some of the stuff that you guys just said. It isn't about just being a tournament guy. You know, the sport is kayak fishing competitively is something that we all talk about and do, but there are so many other people out there that want to get into kayak fishing or that enjoy kayak fishing that don't do it competitively. I think knowing that there are people out there and then there's a spot for people out there to promote what they're doing, you know, something that a lot of these brands, and if you're affiliated with a store or a manufacturer, you're responsible for working demos multiple times throughout the year, and often those demos coincide directly with an event or something like fishing with your friends. Something you have to sacrifice your time of doing what you love to do to go share time with your dealer, your manufacturer, and get people into the sport at the kind of at that base level. Ron's done many demos with me. He's going to do quite a few more this year. I'm going to keep the man busy. But that's what a lot of people forget about. A lot of people want the title. They want the product, but they're not putting in the work on Saturdays when all their buddies are tournament fishing. And sometimes that means representing that brand and sacrificing a day on the water.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference between some of the more reputable companies with pro staffs as opposed to some of the I'm going to call them buying programs, just high volumes of anglers in there that can, that they get a little discount and buy a lot of product. Now, I think that's important too, and it plays its role. It's just how you handle it when you have that kind of position as opposed to a real working in the field position like AJ was talking about.
Can we maybe get into some examples of that? Maybe not, we don't have to name brands unless you want to, but how some of those setups are done. And they seem to really focus more on benefiting the company and not as much value on the individual
right.
pro staffer.
I'll jump in there and just name a company right off the top. I know Ardent Reels, whether you love them or hate them, they count on their pro staff to drive their business. They have, well over 1,000 people on their pro staff, and they buy a lot of product and push a lot of product. And if you're an angler and you like the reels and you want to get a discount on them, and that's great. And it's good for Ardent, I guess. It drives their sales a little bit, but it is what it is. It's a discount program for a large group of people. I think the breakdown is how you present that as the angler.
Yeah, I'll make a comment on that. As an angler, as a tournament angler, if that's what you're looking for, and like you said, if you like that brand and you're happy with that discount, and that works for you, that's great. But if it's you're legitimately trying to get a company to really help you and help cover your costs and travels, having a company like that, it's not. It really doesn't benefit the angler. It is definitely all for the brand itself. Right. If you've got 1,000 people on a pro staff team, you really you're not going to get anywhere with that brand.
Yeah, that's a business model, not a
right. And again, I don't think it's necessarily that's moving toward the quality of the brand or expecting to gain market share. I think that's more guaranteed sales. Like that's these guys are getting 15% off of your 40-50% profit margin. So for them, they're still keeping the doors open, but they're not actually gaining any credibility in the market at all.
Yeah.
So Gene asked, how do you guys think that looks to other potential sponsors?
I wonder what he means by that. Like,
I know exactly what he means by that, because I help, I've helped several guys get on, other teams and get sponsorship deals and stuff. And I speak with these companies, firsthand, and talk with them. And there's two companies. I'm not going to name any names, but there is two companies out there that they are on every resume that they send. I mean, every one of them. And
Ooh,
when when a company sees that, and a legitimate company building a good brand, when they see that, that's the first red flag they look at. That you might as well go ahead and take that application and throw it in a pile,
Really?
because that's exactly where it goes, and that's a fact. I'm telling you that for a fact.
This is an enigma I don't understand.
Chase Tanner commented, "Let's talk about National Pro Staff. How do y'all feel about that pay-to-play system they got going?"
I think that's an absolute joke.
Yeah.
Ron?
I'm not even gonna comment on that one. Yeah, I just don't like that deal.
AJ, are you on the National Pro Staff at all?
I don't think I am. No, I'm actually not that familiar with the National Pro Staff.
For $100 a year, I can hook you up, brother.
You too can be on prestigious teams. So, and there's another one apart from the outright discounts. You've seen teams that the way they build it is, and these are, I think, even more egregious than just the discount and the huge teams is. Well, I guess it's similar to MPS, but like certain rod companies have made you have to buy into the team, so you actually pay basically a membership, $50, $100, whatever it is, at the beginning of the year. Then you have a minimum number of rods you have to buy from them at that discount, but you're actually paying to be on a staff.
Or an outrageous shipping amount, for instance.
Yeah.
But they're going to get you somewhere. So Brad asked a question, if a company you want to work with doesn't advertise pro staff on their websites, which a lot of companies don't, what advice do you have for making contact with the right people in that company? I'll speak to this just from my own personal perspective here. A lot of times, the people that I have been contacted by are their social media directors or marketing directors. They're the ones that kind of see what you're doing and the content that you're putting out. And that's a good contact point, because I mean, ultimately the whole reason they have a pro staff is because it's a lot cheaper than advertising. It's so much cheaper to advertise via 10 or 15 people on social media than it is to pay to run an ad. So for them, that's the best move to make.
And these companies, they're watching, man. I mean, they, even though you might not think they've got their eye on you, they're watching social media, or they have people watching social media, or other anglers that are sponsored. You know, they get feedback. I get asked all the time by my sponsors, you know, who's the hot item out there right now, or who's doing good, or who's doing this. And I mean, so they're getting feedback one way or the other, and they're watching everything that you do on social media. And if you really want to get some bigger companies looking at you, you know, don't be afraid to tag them through your social media post, but also, you know, don't get caught up in all the daggum drama on Facebook. If you're arguing and fighting and cussing and all this stuff on Facebook
Meet
all the
me
time,
at the boat ramp.
you can forget it, man. You know, I mean, if I was running a team, I wouldn't even look at you. You know, if that's what I'm always seeing. And those companies, that's what they're looking for. They want somebody that you got to be marketable, and it's up to you to be able to make yourself marketable.
Yep.
So,
and there's some companies that are very savvy on social media and will do that, Ron, and keep an eye on their team.
Yeah.
And that may be part of their research before selecting pro staffers. But I think there's some companies that are still a little bit slower on the social media marketing, and they rely on the person. If they come to them and say, hey, I've got this many followers, without really knowing that person's impact or quality of their content or experience or use of the product, I think they just go by what that person says what kind of audience they can reach.
Yeah.
And that's sufficient for them, because they don't have the confidence to go in and kind of confirm, I guess, the content of that person.
Yeah. So, and it's hard too, as an angler, to step out of the box and go after that first potential legitimate sponsor, not a pro staff, you know, not a discount, but somebody that's really invested in you. It's hard to get that first one. That's the hardest one to get. Once you get one, it makes it a little bit easier to get the next one and then the next one. But the companies, they should be investing in you as well. They need to be promoting you as an angler. If you're doing well in the tournament or you're traveling to a big event, helping you grow yourself, because you yourself are a brand. And they need to be willing to really help push you, because the more they push you, and it's hard when you got teams that's got 200, 300, 1,000 people. I like the smaller teams, the smaller, there's big companies that have small teams, but there's also smaller companies that have small teams that are really putting a lot behind their anglers. And that's the ones that you really should look at, because they're really, if they're pushing you, that brings more value to yourself, which brings more value to your other sponsors that are already on board with you. And that's a good working relationship as a sponsored angler.
Swaney just dropped a perfect one-liner. He said, if the only people you're reaching are other pro staffers, then you're probably doing it wrong.
So Clifton Allen, and I'll let you take this one, AJ, because we hadn't heard much out of you. Clifton Allen, how do you feel about guys who push a brand on social media but use a different brand on the water?
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing with being on a staff for a brand is loyalty. You need to be loyal to the brand. You need to be passionate about the brand, because guys are going to see right through it. If you show up to the lake on Saturday and an angler's been talking about something all week and he's there doing something different, it speaks volumes about the brand and the angler. And mostly that rests on the shoulders of the angler. If you're supposed to promote a brand, that's your responsibility to wear that proudly and do your thing for those guys. They're relying on you. They've supported you in some fashion. And that's kind of what it's about.
This was a question I was going to bring up here in a little bit, which is, why are each of you on the teams you're on? And it's kind of why we pick. I mean, Ron, Ryan, Shane, you guys, AJ, you guys could probably flip to X kayak brand if you wanted to, let's say. But the reason I, like, for example, stay on Old Town is because I would fish in an Old Town if I wasn't on the team. And you probably would all say the same thing. So you got to believe in the product to begin with.
Right.
So for me, that was the first kayak I bought. I mean, I went and looked at a dozen kayaks, and Native was what I wanted to go with. I mean, quality wise, to me, there wasn't a close comparison for what I was looking for. And man, I just started out with them and got some opportunities. And one of the big things for me was just the relationship with the company. They wanted my input. They wanted to know how to make better boats and what anglers need. And that's huge. I mean, that if you can get a company that's going to take your input into account on the future products they develop, they're not just using you for a hashtag or, an Instagram post or whatever. Like they're relying on you, to move the future of the company forward. For me, that's what sold me, and that's why I'm staying where I'm at.
And Dwayne Taft commented and said, "Don't bash other brands either." I know we all joke around.
Absolutely.
But at the end of the day,
probably the best comment on the thread so far.
Yeah.
Dwayne.
You got your hardliners out there that are Team X for life, and I get that, but you shouldn't bash other brands. They're all quality. There's a lot of quality boats out there.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do it behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes. That's what
Tim
DMs are for.
That's a great question, and I want to bring that up before it gets buried, because comments are flying in. But this is based on a conversation he had today. But the question is, how do you track or judge how effective your pro staff or brand ambassador is? So what I know some companies, and that's maybe a red flag too, if you don't have deliverables or a goal with your brand and you're not updating with your marketing manager or whoever it may be on a regular basis, that may be a red flag if that's something you want to be a part of. So how do you guys judge what's being effective and what's not?
With social media these days, I think it's pretty daggum easy to keep up, with your anglers, and see what they're doing. Keeping up with those guys. I mean, like the anglers should be giving as much content as possible, to whether it be directly to the higher up in the company, whether you're emailing the content over or you're posting it through their social media site. I'll say this: one thing that Yak Attack does that I think is awesome is they do what's called a team takeover on their Instagram, and they'll give their team members time to whether it be like Ryan. I think have you done it? Like I did it.
Buddy.
I did it at the Hobie Worlds in Hobie World 6. We was down in Louisiana, and there was 3 of us that did it for the whole entire week. And so they're literally giving you a login for their Instagram, and you're promoting yourself and you're promoting the brand. I did it for like 3 days, and I think a lot of other companies should look at their model and utilize that for the anglers. I think that's a great promotion that they do.
Something else that I know Plano, Yak Attack, Frog Togs, a few of the companies I work with, they use what's called Angler Tracker. I don't know if you guys have messed with that.
Flugmaster just brought that up.
So what that is you put in your social media accounts, and it basically tracks your posts for you. So it's not a active thing that you have to send in all the time, but it keeps count of what you post and what companies you mention or whatever. That's one way that they're kind of big brother and keeping an eye on you.
Yeah, and like AJ was talking about earlier, with doing demo days, and boat shows and stuff like that, going to and working a booth, that stuff is very valuable. And let me tell you, if you do that for your companies that you're representing and you help them outside of what the normal is, man, they're going to turn around and they're going to really look at you differently and be like, okay, this is who we really should be investing more time in, whether it be whether it be financial or what. That goes a long way, and I'm sure AJ can talk about that a little bit.
Absolutely, Ron. That's kind of what being on a staff is about, is drawing people's attention to a product and ideally making that sale, and putting yourself directly in front of the consumer where they have the opportunity to buy that day, like Ron was saying, at a boat show, a demo, going and working a day inside of a store, if they sell your company's product, giving yourself the opportunity to give your testimony and your belief in a product to the potential buyer directly in that sales spot is so important to the companies. And that's how I quantify the value of, work with some of my guys. What are they doing to help sell boats? What are they doing? What is it? Is it a social media thing? Is it present at events? Is it demos? Is it a combination of all of that? And I got a pretty good relationship with the guys on my fishing team in the Southeast for Hobie, and I'm getting texts weekly. Hey, I talked to so-and-so about a boat. I sent them to this dealer. I'm doing an event with this dealer this weekend. These guys are wanting to do that. They are putting themselves out there because not only is it building the brand, helping the retailer, but it's also growing their brand as well. And the opportunities for that kind of stuff, once your brand gets to a certain level, those opportunities are going to open new doors. And you getting out there and meeting and networking and growing your presence of a brand through those opportunities is huge.
Yeah. Let's
so
go ahead, Ryan.
Jeff, do you want to read? Do you see Christine's comment?
I didn't.
Yeah, go ahead and take that one.
No, I didn't see it. I'm kind of flying through here.
She said, "What about companies that seem to need to fill the female role on pro staff? Is it equal opportunity? Like, what is it with the lack of females in the sport? Does it rub guys the wrong way when they get passed up? So,
lack of females on teams? Is that what she's saying?
Yeah. So what she's saying is, like, why does it seem like there's less females on fishing teams, in general?
Well, I'll say this. I'll take that question. And
there's less female anglers.
That's right. I'm going to use our local club we have 100 and some odd people on the AOY list each year. Usually one, maybe two female anglers. Now, I'd love to get those numbers up. It's just not, there's not the numbers, and I would bet that would be the same at most clubs. I don't know.
She's gonna clarify.
Oh, okay.
What?
That ain't what
Wait,
I'm saying.
JK.
JK.
Stay tuned.
Oh, Katie.
I have heard her speak on this topic a time or two.
Yeah.
So I might.
What would you know about it, AJ?
Who is this? Who's there?
One of those things is the perception. She's a female angler, for example, that gets some opportunities, but everyone here that has ever watched her videos, looked at her posts, fished against her, knows that she earns those opportunities. There might be some companies that utilize the marketability of a female that gets a spot over a male, and I think that for some males, they have trouble with that. Sometimes they can see through the whole sex sells thing, and say this person doesn't even really fish or something along those lines. And so, I think that is a tough thing in her position, where she's out there doing it and she is fishing hard and kicking my butt all the time. And I think anybody in this room that's fished against her has donated some money before, but she's out there doing all the things and doing it. And there's a lot of other females. I won't say a lot, but there's some other females out there doing and working just as hard. And it sometimes seems like the recognition of the female angler goes a different direction.
I would agree exactly with what AJ's saying. Christine, she should be a role model for any female that's trying to get into this industry. And I say that with all the respect in the world, because that girl is amazing. She works her butt off. But there's also the side of it that actually is hurting some of the female anglers. Is there's several out there that have deals that they don't deserve them, and we all know that. They're not catching fish. They're not tournament anglers. They can post a picture of a fish, and I'm not going to get into the details of some of their photos. But that hurts. But that hurts girls like Christine.
Well,
because she's the one working her butt off and doing it the right way.
She just commented again and said, "I want to know what all of you think about companies seeming like they need a female for marketing." Like, I guess that's what I missed in the first post. Like, is that equal opportunity, or is that just do they want to appeal to that demographic? That they're aiming for is putting a female on the team may kind of attract more incoming female anglers to that particular product.
I'll say this. There's a particular look, let's say, that some of these companies go for. And it probably gets them a lot of Instagram likes, but does it get them more business? I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I
think
do
on
think
those bikini models, most guys aren't paying attention to what product she has.
They got products.
I think the responsibility for that falls on the company. And, if the company is using their person and showing their person in the light that person wants to be represented and the company wants to be represented, that's kind of what it's all about. If they're using just trying to fill a female to have a female, and that female's not really doing anything, then that's not really accomplishing any goals. But sometimes I've had the opportunity to put a youth on staff, whether it's a male or female, showcasing that a youth is out here grinding in the tournaments, breaking down doors, with companies at their age. That's a huge thing. And if you get the right youth, just like if you get the right female and the right company to support what they're doing, it's a really good combination for success, because, this sport only grows if we all take it to that next level. And this sport is made up of kids, of females, of, men of all different ages. And that's the beauty of this sport, is it can be for anyone. And a company should take advantage of the right people, showcasing their product to reach different demographics. But, there's the wrong way of doing that too. And so, obviously the company is kind of who's responsible in that capacity.
Right.
So-
Hey, this we're getting a lot of good comments. This is going really good. I'm going to take a quick pause, and then we'll jump right back into this and keep these questions rolling. So everybody hang tight just a minute. We're
What
back
happened,
in.
man?
All right, we're
The
back in.
screensaver, it's just
Shane will
saying
jump
be
back
right
in
back.
here in a minute. He'll be back. We didn't lose Shane. He'll be right back in. But anyway, sorry about that. Be right back, Jim. I thought it was pretty funny, but anyway. We got Marty Hughes. A bunch of people are commenting in here. Oh, Shane just threw his laptop across the room. He said he'll be back in just a second.
That's good.
Marty Hughes commented, which is off the subject of what Christine was talking about. Are people aware that these days, the bigger staffs you get on, you're going to have to start picking up liability insurance and some of the costs that may come with that?
Mm-hmm.
You guys,
Hey.
any of the teams you're on, have to do that?
Oh, we
I don't
back
think so.
live?
Yes, we're
Yeah,
back. We're back in
as
live.
loud as they get, Ron.
Gotcha.
I haven't had to do any liabilities. Hey, I wanted to ask a question
Sure.
before it gets lost. So, kind of expanding on the sex sells and seeing a girl in bikini, whether that sells product or not. What do you guys think sells a product? What stands out to you where you're actually thinking to yourself, wow, I need to look into that product? Is there something that you can pinpoint over anything else that you'd say, wow, I need to get on board with that?
To me, it's results.
Yeah.
If I see somebody get out there and wear a tournament out, like AJ at Gunnersville, like when he just came out and beat the brakes off everybody, I'm gonna buy whatever he's throwing. I don't care.
Ask Dwayne Taff
I'm
how many baits sold after the national championship.
Yeah, there's a lot of bladed baits being sold after that and the Bassmaster
Yeah.
Classic. I mean, I think everybody filled their card up seeing those big tournaments have success like that.
I agree. I think
it's success. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, AJ. I didn't mean to interrupt you, bud.
We're good, man.
So
we agree.
Is that tournament success the only thing that drives you guys to a product? Or
well, I mean, if you look at it like just take for example, if you're watching, Facebook Live on one of the BASS events or something, and you're watching one of those guys crush it, like we'll use Lambert for an example, not Ryan Lambert, but Jason Lambert. Throwing that big what was that?
Jerky J,
Jerky J
on the wobble head.
And look how, I mean, there wasn't none of those available after that tournament. So yeah, I mean, it's success, tournament success, results. That's gonna sell it, the fastest, and that's the hardest part probably, because I fish against Ryan, I fish against all you guys. If you do well in a tournament, part of your job as being on a pro staff or representing a company is you have to talk about that product. And if you do well in that tournament on something, you don't necessarily have to tell it for that event, but after that event, you really should put that out because you owe that to that brand, to disclose, what you was catching those fish on, because that's what sells. That's going to sell product.
And I think guys are drawn to people that are like Jay Wallen, for instance. He shares a lot of tips on ledge fishing and what he did exactly, even sometimes down to the exact location he was fishing. And that really attracts people.
Coordinates and everything, yeah.
Yeah.
So what about what about products that aren't directly related to fishing, that aren't rods and reels, say life jackets, or something that you still use every time you're on the water, but don't have a direct impact on your results?
I think that when you're sponsored with product like that, whether it's even a boat or vests or apparel, giving people the opportunity to try your boat, or hey man, if you notice their vest is looking a little ratty, or maybe they fell in or something, and that they were talking about it, wanting to switch to a different type of vest, give them an opportunity to try yours. Literally take it out. I know Ron rolls around with a few different NRS vests, and I
have a ton of them every
event
I'm at. I have a ton of them. Anybody
Yeah.
can use them. That's what I bring
Somebody
them for. That's
forgets
exactly
one.
why I bring.
Somebody forgets
Every
one
tournament.
every time.
I got one of Steve-O's Chinooks in the back of my truck right now. I've been trying to get it back to him for 2 months.
I think that plays into that reputation you were talking about. Everybody's always watching, so that when you do chime in with, hey, you might want to check out this life jacket, they put a little stock in the fact that you said that. You know what I mean? If you've got some reputation of not being a good angler or being some kind of jerk on social media, they'll just blow by that recommendation maybe.
That's right. And at events and stuff, you've got to make yourself available to talk to people. If even though you fished all day, there's a lot of guys, especially some of the new guys and the younger guys. They want to talk. After the tournament, they want to conversate. Hey man, how was your day? Or I did this today and it really didn't work for me. They're looking for a little bit of insight. And just talking to some of those younger guys, man, that goes a long way with these with anglers, and they remember that stuff.
And it's not even just the younger guys, but new people in the sport. I mean, I've got a lot of guys that are coming over from bass boat fishing, and they're messaging me every day asking questions. What do I need? What can I put on my boat that's really going to help me in this tournament? They're coming out, and it's that kind of stuff. Just interacting with people, making sure that you respond. And I know it's tough, like you get blown up, but respond to every message, man. Take some time, take a couple minutes and put some thought into your reply and really help these people. And that's what really brings people into the product that you stand behind, because then they see you as a trusted source that took time out of their day to help them out.
All right. Hey, can we talk about some pet peeves for a minute? Some of the things you guys have seen that would say, don't do that. And I'm going to bring one up that it's kind of I don't know if I blame the angler or blame the company, but it's these perpetual discount codes. And the reason I don't like those is I've got some buddies that own retail shops, and when you have that, it kind of sets the retail price at whatever that percent off is, right? And then it becomes a constant commercial on said angler's social media. Does that bother y'all? That's one of my biggest pet peeves on social media, is that constant barrage of those kind of posts.
Yeah, and Ron mentioned earlier, but you open Facebook and you've got 37 notifications, and it's the same guy posting to every single group he can imagine.
Yeah.
And it's just dump and run over and over and over. There's no context. He's not actually selling the product. He's just dumping a link or whatever it may be, and he's on.
And you get nowhere. You get nowhere with a post like that when you post to 10 different sites at the same time, because everybody, once they see it, they don't even click like on it no more. So you're really hurting yourself by posting
and the product.
And hurting the product, the brand, all of it.
I think we could all name products that we don't use specifically because of someone that's promoting that product, because we've got a bad taste in our mouth from that individual promoting, and that's just an absolute disaster of a marketing effort.
And I don't know how that works. Maybe they're using those codes as a way to track which angler's pushing the most. I don't know. I just can't believe that's an effective way to grow your brand as an angler.
It's the one thing about like discount codes is it's hard to track for companies too, because once you bring that angler, bring somebody over to, whether they like a page or a business page, or they make a purchase, you don't, how often are they coming back? Or, so the discount code, that's a tough deal. It's nice to have one, to share, every now and then, but I'm kind of with you on that. That's a tough deal.
I'll give you the exact polar opposite of those kind of posts. Not to harp on Christine, but every post that she makes seems like it's so well thought out, and it's very meaningful. A bit wordy, but much better to read that than somebody that's just like trying to meet a quota and push their product out when they probably haven't fished an entire season.
So playing on that, Shane, and I want everybody to chime in on this, but what do you think about people that are just like, they're fishing for likes? I mean, they're not even fishing for fish. Like, they're just trying to put stuff out here to get somebody to click on something.
Well, that's the bikini girl all over again, right?
It is, and we see it a lot in our sport. People.
But those
likes
don't translate to sales, though. We just confirmed that by our discussion and the 100 comments that have rolled in, that although they may get 5 times more likes than a dude, that's not translating to sales. We still want to see that product is improving a person's experience on the water.
Yeah, and sales come from results mostly, but I mean there are sales that come from I mean, I don't want to. I've sold quite a bit of product, for some of my sponsors, and the reason I have is because I'm using it and I'm putting it out there, and people see that I'm using it, and I'm open about what I use at events and tournaments, and that right there is what sells product, and it sells repeat product. You've got to be willing to disclose some of that information, if it's lures, if it's baits, but there's going to be guys that are going to go buy. They're going to go buy a Tundra because they've seen so-and-so running a Tundra. Now, it might be Mike Iaconelli, or it might be Swindle or somebody like that, but that's what sells, getting some of those higher profile guys that are using stuff. It's going to naturally sell product for brands.
Josh Swaney says some of that responsibility has to fall on the companies, and of course it does.
Absolutely.
I mean, they're laying that out there for the anglers to do that kind of stuff.
Yep, agreed. But and AJ, maybe you can speak to this a little more. Like, what does it take to push a company to say, okay, this is the line in the sand. This person's crossed it. What does it take to you to say this is toxic to the business? Why do we keep them on staff?
A lot of that, and see, the way Hobie staff works, you've got a local team and a regional team, and the local team is affiliated directly with a retailer in an area. The regional team has a little broader reach, is affiliated with a few retailers, and it's more regional. The local team, a lot of times Hobie hears most of their feedback from the shops. Sometimes the reps are involved, but what's an angler doing in the shop? What are they doing locally at events? Are they the kind of person that can just get approached by anybody and represent the brand and the store the right way? Or are they, causing controversy? Are they shut off on tournament day? Are they being dramatic on social media and causing issues? Those are things, and Ron mentioned earlier, people are always watching. Anything that you have posted in the past, all that stuff is somebody sees it, and you never know who's talking to who and how that stuff gets around. And there's guys that are, by some companies, kind of permanently blackballed because of things that they've done years ago, and just the way they've handled themselves at events or in tournaments, and those things, companies are like, I just don't want to be associated with that. And we see it now. People are getting ridiculed for things that they posted on their Twitter years and years ago, and they're having to come out and publicly apologize. And guys, you represent yourself, and if you want people to sponsor you and affiliate with you, look in the mirror, and that's really where it starts.
So y'all heard it here first. Get on your Twitter and start deleting stuff tonight if you want to hook up in 2019.
Gene commented Googans. What does that mean, Gene?
Oh, Google Squad.
What kind of fire are we lighting here?
Great questions coming in tonight. Christine said earlier we could get off on a different tangent with that whole female angler thing, so we won't keep harping on that.
So I think, and we've talked about this, obviously, Jeff and Shane. I think we need to get a panel of female anglers on to further delve into that topic altogether. I think that's a whole nother episode right there.
Yeah, I think that'd be
good.
My
buddy Holly suggested that this week as well, so we'll definitely have to set that up.
I don't know how long this is going to go tonight. I mean, I'm up for however long how you want to do it, but one thing that anglers should really work towards, and that's work together, in this industry, and that's support each other. Whether or not whatever your goal and whatever you're trying to do in the fishing world, whether it's be a sponsored angler or process or whatever. You can help each other with other brands and help each other succeed, and get further along in this industry without trying to tear everybody down. Because, the new guys coming in, especially some of the younger guys, I know some guys, I've talked to some of them, they look at me like, man, I'm kind of afraid to make a post or say this because I don't want somebody to bash me or talk bad about me. And I think a lot of that needs to be pulled back. I think we're doing more damage than good, on certain stuff like that. Yeah, there's some companies taking advantage, of anglers out there, and we know that. But we could easily make it better for each other if we'd help each other more than trying to tear each other down.
Absolutely.
Dwayne Tass said, help each other gain value. If most people, or not most, but some would stop accepting crap deals. So, the less number of those low value deals out there, I guess it does help everybody else out.
Supply and demand. I mean, if you make these companies value you more, then it's going to help everybody else across the board.
Katie,
I mean, it took me a long time to get on Team Hobie. I mean, AJ can talk about that, but me and him had a lot of conversations over a couple years, and it don't happen overnight. Anybody that thinks it happens overnight, you're wrong. It don't happen overnight. You got to put work in to get a legitimate, good deal. You got to put a lot of work in.
Katie Bacca said, I don't know if that's how you say her last name, but she said, funny's one thing, just being a jerk and being mean's another. And I know on our page, there's a lot of funny stuff that goes down, and we want to keep it funny. We don't want to get into, being hateful to folks, even though that line, they ride the line sometimes on there.
I mean, it's one thing poking each other. It's another thing to maliciously attack somebody.
Right. And we've had to thin the herd a little bit, haven't we, Ryan? Just people doing that
a couple times.
Just a little tiny bit.
Just a little tiny bit. Well, we've been going at this an hour, guys. Anything else you want to chime in with before we try to wrap it up here in a little bit? Any tips for any up and coming pro staff guys or looking for sponsors?
Yeah, I'd like to say something on that. If you're wanting to get involved, one of the best ways is to go to your local shop, and don't walk in the shop and say, hey, I want to be on your staff. Just go to the shop and meet some people, talk to some people that work there, figure out who the manager is, figure out if anybody in that store fishes, get to know people on a personal level. Once you start getting to know people personally, things can kind of turn into a real opportunity. And go out and do those community events. Try to help them at a demo. You'll meet a rep or multiple reps at that demo. And once again, keep putting yourself out there, but not necessarily just on social media, but in person. Go to those type of events where you can meet staffers from the store or meet the reps, and create that and start that relationship, because those are the ones that are going to be extremely powerful down the road.
And I'm going to follow up with what AJ was saying. One thing that I've tried to do is I look at the events that I'm going to attend throughout the year. And if you're new coming in to the fishing world and you're looking to try to get some deals, I would highly suggest trying to fish the events that's going to get you the most media coverage if you were to win or do very well, because that's the fastest way to get people to look at you. Is if you win a really big event, man, it's going to jumpstart you. And you might get some TV time, you might get some articles, some online articles, magazine print. Look at the bigger tournaments. That's going to get you a lot of media coverage, because that can happen. You can get sponsored deals really quick that way. The only other way to do it is to buckle down, bust your tail, fish hard, and just work hard.
But to your point, Ron, winning a big tournament doesn't automatically entitle a person to, to expect people to roll out the red carpet. People are still going to research who you are and your character and what you're bringing, and that,
sure,
the media output. So you have to prepare yourself for that too. Like, you need to have a solid base ready to present, when you get that opportunity. That way, these companies, when they look into you, they're saying, okay, this is worth our time. If not, you're gonna get overlooked by a lot of big deals, based on that huge win, just because you didn't have the resume to back it up.
Yeah, but if you've been working to win, it's very rare that somebody just goes out and wins a big tournament and they're not a good angler. That most of these guys, I mean, they put the work in. But yeah, you got to keep your nose clean, man. Make sure you have to make yourself marketable. But once you win a big event like that, or you're getting a lot of coverage, now you're kind of the hot item. So you kind of got to take advantage of that. Okay, people are kind of looking at me. That's when you really put your butt in gear, and you work and you talk to all these people that are approaching you. Don't just accept, any deal. Make sure that it works. It's a good deal that works for you as an angler. I mean, I try to. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. I try to fish now where I'm at. I try to fish the most tournaments that's going to give me the most media coverage, because that's going to grow you. If you start getting TV stuff and magazines, that's when the bigger companies are looking at you. And it's happened for me. I mean, I signed a couple of really nice deals this year because of that. Some big wins, and the companies approached me. So it works. It don't work for everybody, but it is another. That is to me, that's what I look for now.
So this guy named Jay Whalen, how do you guys feel about brands that use guerrilla marketing, or, in other words, target a certain group of anglers to work an angle or drive a wedge between other brands? That was a question a lot of people wanted answered.
Example? I don't give an example.
Jay, do you have an example for us, sir?
Name names.
Name names.
I wasn't.
I think that kind of stuff's pretty transparent. I mean, that doesn't, nobody likes to see that kind of tactic employed.
No, I don't think that carries a lot of weight anywhere. For me.
That kind of goes into, like, bashing other companies. I think, kind of his question, bashing other brands, trying to drive a wedge between companies. This sport's big enough for anybody to come in here and have a business and have a business plan and have the right business plan. You don't have to bash other brands to be successful in this industry.
No, what you want to see is them working together as much as they can, anyway.
Yeah.
And I think, to Jay's question, I think whoever is involved with starting the guerrilla marketing, whatever company is there, eventually that stuff comes around full circle, and then people see what that company was doing, and it can kind of work against them, and that's pretty counterintuitive in the whole deal. And if you were one of the anglers that was caught up in that, that kind of gives you a black eye moving forward as well.
That's right.
Especially if the company that one's bashing is keeping their head down and still putting out a quality product, and not engaging and not sinking to that level.
Yeah.
That makes them shine
Absolutely.
brighter.
I mean, I've steered. I'm an old town believer, obviously, but I've steered guys where they need to go to better fit their needs. And maybe it wasn't an old town that time, and that's how you need to be. You need to be honest with people, have a little integrity when you're dealing with people.
Yeah,
And
I agree 100%.
I'd throw this in when this video is over tonight. If you get in here late, or if you're watching this now, share this around, and people need to read through these comments. There's a lot of legit anglers and sponsored anglers in here that have dropped a lot of really good information in these comments that we can't get to at all. So it'd do you some justice to scroll through here and kind of check out what some of them have said.
Yeah, there's no right, no, I don't know that there's a book wrote on the proper way to go about it. But if you carry yourself with integrity, and you get out there and you work hard, you legitimately put the time in and fish hard, good things are going to happen. It's going to happen, because not only is it the companies looking at you, but there's other anglers out there that are watching and are going to recommend you to companies or brands. And so if you put just work hard, you're going to get there. Especially the younger guys that are watching, man. I love seeing the younger guys come up. I'm an old man. I'm 45-year-old. I'm probably past my prime. I like seeing these younger guys coming on strong, and I love trying to work with the younger guys.
It's not always about, for the younger guys coming in, it's not always about your best tournament finish or whatever. It's the fact that you're out there in front of people, you're putting out good content. Focus on working hard and quality, and find your niche in the sport. There's plenty of things that these companies are looking for. If you can't always go out and catch a giant fish, that may not necessarily hurt you. You may be really good at photography or really good at videography or editing. There's a lot of room for people to succeed here. So, keep your head down and work hard.
Just to elaborate on that, AJ touched on it and Gene mentioned it as well. The companies already have an established staff. They're going to turn to them in most cases, or they've got one rep that they trust, maybe the senior rep, and they're going to say, hey, what do you know about this person that's put an application in or that they've talked to? So you have to have those relationships, not just with the company, but with anglers in the community. It's going to, your reputation is going to get around, good or bad. And most of the marketing directors and managers are going to ask questions to everyone that they know throughout the league or throughout the community, especially if it's a better position that they're offering. But yeah, it kind of irks me to see guys that are just now getting into fishing, and the first thing they do is start trying to get on staffs and try to get free product and whatever it may be. It's like, do you really enjoy fishing? Are you really enjoying this product, or are you just an attention whore and you're trying to get more likes and follows, whatever it may be?
You know what? I think sometimes people get caught up. You know what I mean? They see that stuff and they get caught up trying to get as many little logos as they can. And maybe watching this and talking to some other people, they can kind of understand, how to better go about that.
Getting free gear and getting paid and all that is great. And obviously that's something to work toward if you want to do that. But it does take work. And like Ron said, it doesn't happen overnight. It's an investment that you're going to have to do if you want to take that route. But most importantly, you need to have fun either way. And
that's right.
If you're stressed out about that right away and you're still learning how to cast a bait caster, you might be doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. You got to enjoy it, because once you get to that spot and you got the sponsors and you got the companies behind you, that's really when the work really begins. Off the water, because it takes a lot to keep up, with a lot of sponsors and a lot of companies, because they're gonna expect it. They're gonna expect you to put some time in and to help them. And if you can't, hey, part ways. But if you do part ways, the worst thing you can do is go out and then bash that company, because all the other companies are looking at that, being like, oh yeah, we don't want him. Even if they were looking at you now, they're not going to want you because you just talked crap about somebody that you just left. You know, so
not
know,
or not even just left, but like if you get turned down by a company, say you approach a company and they're just not interested, that's the worst thing you could do is turn right around and start throwing shade at that company. That's I mean, that's a terrible look for the rest of your future in the sport.
Yeah. And we can probably all name somebody that's gone out and made a live video or made a YouTube video bashing company A or B, and that's always going to get around.
No,
there's no way around that, and it's not going to be a good look. Leave amicably and try not to say anything negatively, even if there was a bad situation.
Stay professional. You have to stay professional.
That's what pro means in pro staff.
That's right.
Man.
That's right.
You have to stay professional.
Promotional, professional can mean a lot of things, right? Hey, this was a lot of fun tonight, guys. The comments keep flying in. We can get back in here and try to answer some of them, you know, by thumbing it out later. But I got to get up early for work. I'm sure you guys got other stuff to do. Maybe we can do this again. I'd love to have you guys all, you know, both back on here again. This was a lot of fun. A lot of good comments about how they enjoyed the show. So we appreciate y'all. Any parting words?
I'll say something. Merry Christmas to you guys, man. I love each and every one of you. I love all you guys in social media, Facebook land. So, and if you don't follow me, you can find me on Facebook, Ron Champion, Professional Angler, or Ron Champion, my personal page. I'm on Instagram. I got a little bit of YouTube.
The gram.
That's how you promote, baby. That's how you do it. But Merry Christmas, y'all. No, I mean that. I mean that really. Merry Christmas, y'all.
Merry Christmas, Ron.
All right, fellas. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I want to say Merry Christmas, and hope we provides a little Christmas present after the new year with some more release for the Bass Open Series. We've got some things we're working on. Excited to announce. We'll open up registration for the first event at Chickamauga. Looking forward to coming back on and talking to you guys about once we drop some rules, some satellite events, and just going over everything in fine details, and y'all can hammer me on all that stuff a little more in detail on that one.
Nice.
Good.
All right, fellas. Merry Christmas. We gone.
Take care.
Thanks, guys.
See y'all.